Welcome 5.1, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the changing quality. I'm currently on vacation, but rather than leave you with some useless old patch pre-recorded content, I knew this was going to be a big one, so I decided to pack along my laptop and my old mic. So I'm recording this from my vacation, and yeah, I've got this replay here from Ronan and test game between him and Giamma, looking at some of the new elf changes. There has been so many changes in this patch, so I'm just going to cover them as we cover them. One of the biggest changes for sure was Swift Shiver Shards, Deepwood Scouts, that get an extra shot on their bows, and magic damage essentially got their range restored to regular, I guess not restored, they never had the same range as regular Deepwood Scouts, but now they do at 180 range, which is pretty insane. They're very high DPS and magic damage, stock 360 shooting, makes them one of the strongest skirmish units in the game, even before, just in terms of power. Now with range, they can compete with just about any unit in the game in a skirmish fight. Orion also, I think, had some buffs. Yeah, look at that, 605 weapon strength with Frenzy active. Another huge change as well, I notice, as I mouse over this weapon strength value, you can see that Frenzy on there and the amount that it's modifying the weapon strength by. This is a huge change. Me as a caster, something I've been wanting for a very long time. Just gives me an easier way to break down and see, like, okay, what different effects are affecting this stat. Absolutely huge change. Massive fan of that. Of course, this is also on the new Conquest mode, which is essentially land battles with caps. Anybody who's been watching this channel for some time knows about land battles with caps. I've been running a whole tournament series on it, and now Creative Assembly has officially added it. I know this has probably been in the works for quite some time, so I'm not going to claim full credit for it, but I like to think maybe my tournament helped Creative Assembly kind of give them the extra push they needed to finalize and finish it. But yeah, let's get things rolling. Wild Riders also saw some changes. I think they had, what, like a cost reduction? Yeah, for High Elves, the Fireborn, who are also here in this build somewhere. In fact, let's just talk about the builds real quick. We've got the Swift Shiver Shards, 3 of them. Orion here. We've got some Dryads and some Wild Riders mixed together. It looks like a Spellsinger of Life as well for healing. Wild Hunters of Kurnos. Yeah, that's basically it for the Wood Elves. Doing a little bit of skirmishing right now, hanging back. We've got a Star Dragon here for the High Elves, Spearmen, and Shadow Warriors, with some Rangers who now have Vanguard, like they always should have, to be honest. Dragon Princes, and particularly the Fireborn, if they're here, I wanted to take a look at. Yes, Fireborn now have primary AP. They basically just flip their AP values, so they are able to compete with the true, like, next-tier elite cavalry that are in the game now, like Grail Knights. They will definitely be in that fight a lot better. So far, so good. Both players just kind of skirmishing here. The UI obviously a little bit different from the regular, well, I say regular, the old land battles with caps UI. We can see here just the victory tickets. Nope, there's still a balance of power that gives the allied and enemy troop counts, but yeah, no like damage values on the side as if it was domination, which is totally fine. But anyway, we got Orion here, a little bit netted by the Star Dragon, gonna get in combat as well, but with some flesh to stone, up to 60% physical resistance extra, gives him 80% overall. Basically going to be impervious to the attacks of the Star Dragon and punching back hard with that anti-large spear. 600 weapon strength, definitely trading a lot more effectively. You can see the Swift Shivers also just pouring in shots there. Absolutely massive volume of fire. Again, they have 2 shots per volley, basically, right? And yeah, it just does double damage, essentially, from regular Swift Shiver Shard, or Deepwood Scouts, rather, which is pretty insane. Definitely very, very strong. You can see here, once the Shadow Warriors are able to come in and return fire, they actually do some pretty solid damage. Of course, they're all still as squishy as they ever have been. But, yeah, the High Elves right now just kind of hanging back, getting skirmished. Orion harassing the lines here, when a lot of their melee units not really able to contribute. But, I mean, obviously, it's a test game. Both players are just trying to feel things out. It's not should be taken as completely competitive, but still. Orion getting a little overextended here, is going to get some Wild Riders and some Dryads kind of moving in for some support. Dragon Princes continuously trying to pull away from those Wild Riders, screen through the spears, get a more favorable engagement there. Yeah, fighting in the woods definitely not going to be the best. The Dragon will be suffering debuffs, Orion will not, of course, because he is Mr. Woodsman. And doing a great job of it, too. With some healing on both sides. We see a little regrowth, or Earthblood rather, another flesh to stone. I'm sure we'll be seeing a regrowth on the dragon at some point from Teclis. But yeah, a little bit of a skirmish fight, of course, and just the the Swift Shiver Shards so far accruing massive value. Probably, yeah, paid for themselves. Still with a good amount of their ammunition left. Yeah, basically all paying for themselves. They're, what, 800 points? So not quite yet on all of them, but still plenty of opportunity to get value. We just compare that value to the Shadow Warriors here on this skirmish, and they are just performing much poorly, obviously, in comparison to missile damage. I mean, they're very comparable units pretty much every way. Shadow Warriors are obviously just better in melee, especially with that martial prowess active. Yeah, little Hounds of Orion in the back line there. And Swift Shivers once again focusing another Shadow Warrior just to its absolute doom. So I did want to feature this mostly because Wood Elves got a ton of buffs. They were probably one of the most buffed factions, which they definitely needed it. Maybe a little bit over buffed. We'll have to wait and see. There's some talk of that already, even on the first day of the patch, but maybe not. Again, time will tell. But the Swift Shiver Shards is one of the biggest ones for sure, and especially just, yeah, against in a game like this, against a faction like High Elves, which historically have been able to out-skirmish the Wood Elves in many ways with their, shielded Lothar and Seaguard, who are still definitely going to be good in this matchup. You had artillery, various options to try and out-missile the Wood Elves, but yeah, it's a big one for sure, and it does present an interesting dilemma of Swift Shivers versus Way Watchers, which was already a dilemma in certain matchups and situations where range wasn't so much of a factor. Now, even in matchups where, like, basically the only factor to consider, more or less, is AP, right? Like, how much AP do you actually need? Even against medium to, like, medium-high armor factions, Swift Shivers are certainly going to be enough DPS and volume overall to get it done. Really, against only very high armor factions, or against specific very high armor units, would I take Way Watchers over Swift Shivers? Swift Shivers are cheaper. Again, we'll do a comparison, but they have more unit models and more volume of fire, so the damage overall is probably not as much lower as you might think than Way Watchers. Again, against specific high armor units, especially units like 90 armor plus, the Way Watchers are still going to get better damage, but even like 70 armor, you're going to start to see the Swift Shivers perform the same, if not better, than Way Watchers in many situations. So because of that, yeah, we do see a little bit of a melee engagement developing here, though. Wild Riders getting in there, still suffering against spears like they always have, but Terror kicking in from Orion on some of these Rangers and whatnot out on this flank here. Star Dragon also going to be charging in there, doing some pretty good... Oop, nope, the mouse is not going to cooperate. This is my old mouse that's having some issues. So a little bit more limited in the sort of camera movements I can do, but that's okay. You still see these Wild Riders charge on in, even in low resolution. Still get some great work done here in a surround. Star Dragon's also getting some great work done, though, and with the supporting Fireborn. Nope, regular Dragon Princes. Haven't really been highlighting the Fireborn too much. Where are they at? What are they getting up to? They're killed, okay. They seem to have died to Archers and Wild Hunters of Kurnos, which actually does make sense. I mean, Wild Hunters, great unit, anti-large magic damage. Can trade well into Dragon Princes, especially if they get the right engagement, but yeah, Blade Riders with Spears also helping to clean up here. So, nice long skirmish game, but eventually the Wood Elves are going to win out, which in a bow fight, I feel like the Wood Elves probably should win. High Elves are a more balanced faction overall and have more variety of things they can do, but in this specific instance, I feel like this is good and proper as to the faction designs, I guess. So that Wood Elves should win a tight fight like this. Especially if the Wood Elves, the High Elves rather, don't tech too much into like a specific counter build with a lot of cavalry. I do think maybe you'll see a little bit more build roulette in factions, or in matchups with the Wood Elves, especially somebody like the High Elves, where the Wood Elves just have more options of things they can do potentially now. But yeah, man, that Star Dragon and Teclis both being heavily punished here. Granted, the High Elves have been able to control the cap point the entire time, so Ronan does need to finish the game soon, or else he might lose on points. But yeah, it looks like Army Losses kicks in right as I say that, and it's going to be victory for the Wood Elves under one of the new color schemes as well. I say new, it's actually old from Warhammer 1. I believe it's from the Wood Elves mini-campaign, if I'm not mistaken, from Warhammer 1 way back in the day. They've added a few of those missing sub-factions. But yeah, kind of Beastman colors, honestly, which is interesting. It's nice to see. Yeah, Orion, 2,500 points, does a great job paying for himself, fighting a Star Dragon, just doing his hybrid Hunter King thing you will. The Swift Shiver Shards also, yeah, 1500, 1100, 1300, excellent, excellent performance. Swift Shivers could always do this in terms of DPS, but again, against a faction like High Elves, you would not be able to because they'd be outranged and killed. Now you can take them against a faction like High Elves and have them perform, which opens up a lot more options in different matchups. Certainly, Wild Riders also, one of them just straight paying for itself. It's nice to see. Wild Riders of Kurnos also trading great against the Dragon Princes. Giamma definitely had a tough time there, granted. Ronin's a very strong opponent, especially with the Wood Elves. He's been practicing with them even when they were bad, so now that they're good, I'd imagine he's extra scary, so I definitely wouldn't want to fight him, but I'm glad Giamma's willing to, and definitely did his best, but overall this build just was pretty much countered by everything the Wood Elves were able to bring here, so interesting game for sure. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to get back to my vacation, but thank you all so much for watching. I'll have a few more videos for the rest of the week, and then we'll be back to the regular PC by the weekend, so stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.